All right. Since I'm live, you guys can hear me. Please let me know when we'll get this started. I realize it's not going to be a very busy stream today because of the race being postponed. So I'm sure most of you are busy, but I still want to make a stream still, just so we can have something to watch on playback for people in the morning when building lineups. So if you have any questions, you can leave them in the chat, but I'll just go over some more updated thoughts here and let you know if anything has changed for me. And obviously with the rain, we are going to get a competition caution. Bob did announce that happening, I believe, at lap 30. So something to consider, because with Christopher Bell, he's not going to be able to just completely run away at the beginning. We are going to have to re-rack him a little bit, and who knows who's going to pit and who's not. So we'll see what happens there. But let me pop this chat out here. And I did change some of my bets as well. So what's up, SS Jackson? What's up, Paper? Let's get it. Yeah, hopefully it'll be a good one tomorrow. Looks like weather is going to be good. It looked like actually the weather in New Hampshire did lighten up a bit. So I'm not sure if they actually would have been able to get the race in, but it wasn't as bad as we originally thought. What's up, Scott? No, of course. Always got to be late. You know how it is. But let me pull my sheet up here. All right, Logan asks, is it a bad idea to put the top three in the same lineup tonight or tomorrow? I would say it most likely is. I think the chances of the top three drivers all working out, especially with all the place differential we have, I don't think that's going to be the absolute best way to go. Because I'm already jamming in 1-2 a ton. And if you're doing that, you're really banking on the dominator points there. And I have a really hard time seeing Eric Almirola really picking up any dominator points whatsoever. He might be able to pick up some fast laps along the way, but I don't think it's going to be enough to outscore some of these place differential plays that we have. Because if you're looking at the 8K range that Eric Almirola is in, it's pretty good. So you have Ross Chastain, who's obviously mega chalk, starting in 31st. He had a fast car in practice, and for him not to work out, he basically has to wreck because he's been pretty good so far in the short flat tracks in the next gen car. Then you have Brett Keselowski, who he's starting 9th, so you get 6 extra place differential spots, and he should have a fast car. I think he's got very similar finishing position upside. There's Eric Almirola, but he's got the place differential with it that Eric does not. You have Tyler Reddick, who has dominator upside. He's starting in 6th. Again, a really fast car. And Eric Almirola in practice really wasn't that great either. 21st in the 1 lap and 25th in the 5 lap. And then right below him, Bubba, another guy that was super fast in practice. Then Bowman and Ty Gibbs that have a lot of place differential available to them. So I am personally just not going to touch Eric Almirola in this race. Basically he has to get fast laps and finish 3rd, and he's going to have a lot of other guys have some issues, which I just don't really see happening. So I'm willing to take a chance that Eric is not popping the optimal, and especially if you pair him with Christopher Bell and Martin Truex Jr., you're just really not leaving yourself much room for error at all. So I personally would not do that, and I'm just not touching Eric in general either. Got a donut from my man Chris, appreciate that. Says, who do you think is the safest punts if you try 3 dominators? Yeah, it's not pretty down low this week, but we're going to be forced to play some of these guys. So if I'm picking some pump plays here, Todd Gilliland, it's not that I'm expecting much of him. I think he does lose a spot or two, but he is $4,800. I'm not really sure why he's cheaper than Noah Gragson, Cole Custer, Ryan Newman. I think he should be kind of right around where Corey LaJoie is, and the fact that he's not, I do think we're getting him at a pretty low price point. It's not like he's in a junk car, because we know Todd Gilliland's not full-time with Front Row, and sometimes they throw him in a Rick Ware car, but that's not the case this weekend. He's in the 38, and we have seen him run well. And by well, I mean for his standards, like a top 15, top 20 is certainly in the cards here. And if you're looking at practice, 20th in the 1 lap, 17th in the 5. So I think Gilly is fine. I do think Custer will have some ownership starting in 34th, which I'm still on bad terms with Custer after what he did at Xfinity. I had prize picks props on the over for Custer and John Hunter Nemechek. Obviously, John Hunter took care of business, but Custer, last lap of the race, wrecks. It sucked. But either way, I hate that guy. But I think Custer is playable. I think Custer is like your cash game option. Todd Gilliland is going to be your tournament option. I also think Corey LaJoie, Haley, and McDowell are fine, but they're not really completely in the punt category. So as far as punts are concerned, I would say Gilly and Custer. As gross as it sounds. But Custer wasn't that bad in practice either. 25th in the 1 lap, 22nd on the 5, and 12th in the 10. So, I mean, it could be worse, for sure. I do appreciate the dono. Tito says, what are your thoughts on playing Bell and Truex together? Also, do you like Blaney and Harvick for sneaky plays who can come top 5? Thought I'm going Custer over Gilliland. Truex or log out. think I covered it all there. But as far as playing Bell and Truex together, I'm doing that a ton. But I am going to be playing a 3-max this weekend. And my plan is, as of right now, is to do one lineup with Bell and Truex together. And then I think I'm going to mix and match them in the other two. So I'll do like a Bell, I haven't built yet, maybe like a Bell, Hamlin, Blaney, something like that. And then I'll do like a Truex, Harvick, something like that. Like a Truex, Harvick, Reddick or something. So that's my plan as of right now. But I will have a decent chunk. Well, if you're thinking 3 lineups, 33% of those will have the Truex and Bell combination. So if you want to expand that to a 20 max or 150 max, I think that's totally fine, because it's going to be tough to like, if you're trying to pick who's going to be the main dom, it's going to be tough to pick. You might miss out if you only pick one of these guys. So if you're just jamming 2, I think you very likely just jamming in the top dominator there. And I'd be very surprised if both don't get a good chunk of dominator points. I was looking at my model in the Sims for my top dominators, and they are just far and above everybody else, which I don't usually see them up this high. But for the top dom tool, I have Bell at 45.4% to be the top dominator in this race, and then I have Martin Truex at 44%. So the next guy comes in, I think it's like Ryan Blaney at 1.9%. So I'm not saying he's got a 1.9% chance to dominate, but just to be the top dominator. So I really love the top 2 guys, and I'll be playing them together quite a bit. And do I like Blaney and Harvick for sneaky plays? Yes, these are some of my favorite tournament plays on the slate. I think Ryan Blaney looks really good. Decent car in practice, and he was in that second group, which, if you guys didn't watch the video yet, if you're watching practice, the track was definitely slower for the Group B guys, which Blaney was a part of, Kevin Harvick, Christopher Bell. So if they don't look as good in practice as some of these other guys, it's probably because they were in the slower group. But if you try to average that out, I mean, some of their times look really good. So I think Ryan Blaney's an excellent play. Kevin Harvick was really good in the long run, and considering he was in Group B, I think that's definitely an added plus. And we know how good he is at short flat tracks, really good in New Hampshire. And speaking of Harvick and Blaney, I did bet on those 2 to win this race. Now, obviously, I think Bell or Truex wins, but I don't bet if I don't have value, and I'm showing like minus 5% leverage on those guys. So I think those are the 2 winners. Well, obviously, you can only have one, but I think those are the very likely it's one of those 2 drivers. But I am showing value on Harvick and Blaney right now at their current odds, because you can get Blaney, I believe, at 11 to 1 over on Barstool, and then Harvick at 10 to 1 over on Barstool as well. So I put 0.9 units on both of those guys. I think they're the best value on the board right now. And while I don't think it's the most likely scenario that they win, they are showing value for me. What's up, Spreader? What's up, Rick? Hello, CP and Race fam. What is up, Kay? Says, I got 5,700 left per slot for 2 slots. Any suggestions on who I should have in my last 2 spots for cash? Say $5,700 for the ending of your cash build. I would probably say your best options are, it's not pretty. Probably LaJoy, Custer, Gilliland. I would pick 2 of those 3. I would like to get to a Haley or McDowell if you could find the extra $100, though. I feel a lot better about their chances of staying within the top 20. So, but for cash games, I mean, Custer is the one I guess I feel the best about, but it's not great. What's up, Gebber? Good morning, chat. What's up, Carmi? I'm in Vermont right now next to New Hampshire. Going to be Nashville tomorrow, and I believe it's going to be Brad in the 6 car. It's certainly possible. I think I remember a race where Keselowski absolutely killed it in New Hampshire. We know how good he is at short flat tracks. Obviously, no longer in a Penske car, so it doesn't have quite the oomph as we used to for Brad Keselowski. But that 6 car has definitely gotten a lot better this year. RFK, I think, has made some strides, and he was fast in practice as well. 8th in the 1 lap, 5th in the 5. So I think he's fine. He's fine tournament play. I don't think he's going to win, but he could certainly be an outside top 5 contender for sure. But I'm glad they called the race early, because especially when absolutely hate when DraftKings does not push back lock and we lock, and then we have to look at our lineups for 24 hours. It's just the absolute worst. So I love when they call the race early, and it makes things much, much smoother. And then we get to rethink our lineups and make poor decisions for the next 24 hours, and that's a lot more fun. What's up, Bull? Says Bubba or log out. I think Bubba's fine for tournaments, but I don't think it's a Bubba or log out situation. But I do like what I saw from him in practice. 5th in the 1, 4th in the 5, 5th in the 10. And he's also got the narrative going for him this week where he is in the DraftKings car. Him and Tyler Reddick both. So I am a fan of 2311 this weekend. Look good in practice, and they do have good track position as well, which we know is pretty important at these short flats. Says someone take Bull's wrench for that. I think one more outburst, maybe we'll have to. And then I think there was something else I wanted to mention, but I forget what it was. I am going to be doing an ownership update on the Patreon for those of you that are members over there. So be on the lookout for that later, probably later this evening, later tonight. It's not going to be anything drastic, but I do think a few things are going to get tweaked. Because I don't think some of the ownership on some of the big dogs that I have, I think I might have to tone those down a little bit. Because I think from what I've seen, I believe everyone's on Bell and Truex, so they might just end up being funneled there, and we might see Larson, Busch, Elliott be even lower owned than I thought, maybe even William Byron as well. Logan says, started my cash lineup with Bell, Truex, Chastain, Gibbs. I believe everyone's going to do that. So if you're playing cash games this week, just know it's going to be a giant 2v2. Projections say Jones and Custer, but not sure how I feel about a Rick Ware car. Thoughts? Yeah, so if you're looking at my projections or whatever projections you're using, I'm sure that's what everyone's optimal going to be. Because once you use those four, you're kind of stuck in that 6K range and below. And, well, 6,500 and below. And Eric Jones makes the most sense there, starting in 30th. Like, I don't think he's going to have a ton of speed this weekend, but you have to imagine Eric Jones is going to be anywhere from like 20th to 25th, more than likely, with upside of more, because we know he can have some speed some weeks. So you're probably plugging in Jones because you're not going to play Stenhouse or Cindric in cash games. And then at that point, you are left with like 5,400 and under, and I would say Custer is probably the best option there. I do like Todd Gilliland in tournaments, so I don't mind the pivot there. And even Gilly in cash games might not be the absolute worst. Just the problem is, if he has any sort of issue whatsoever, starting in 23rd really does limit that upside. So I think you do have to go Custer just because he's got such a safe floor there, 34th. I'm not saying he's a lock to finish even top 30, but if you can just pick off a few spots, it's not going to kill you at $5,000. Steve says, how much does racing tomorrow change things? I wouldn't imagine it would change really anything. It's supposed to be pretty nice tomorrow. I mean, we're going to have a competition caution on lap 30. So Christopher Bell is going to have to just, if you assume Christopher Bell leads to the competition caution, it could be him or Truex or really anybody in the top 5, I guess. But the assumption would be Bell. And so he's not going to be able to completely run away with a stage. So pitting, strategy, something could happen. So not an absolute lock to the entire first stage. That's something to think about, but I would say it's most likely that him or Truex probably doesn't. But I don't think it should really change your strategy much whatsoever. It's not like we're going to have rain tires or anything. The weather does look pretty good. Got done from man Spread. He says, short and sweet. Appreciate you. No problem at all, Spread. Figured this would mostly be some people watch on playback, but did want to get something out there for you guys. And I do appreciate everyone stopping by, even though we don't even have a race today. So I do appreciate the few that are here today. Bob says, hey, Chris, who do you think has the best chance to win outright other than Bell and Truex? Thank you. Yeah, I mean, obviously those are going to be the top 2 dogs there. If you're looking at my betting model, I have very rarely do I see guys projected with a 3-ish projected finish. But I got Truex at 3.43 and Bell at 3.69, which pretty good in my model. But that's still equating to just under a 17% projected win percentage in my sims, and Vegas has them at 22.2%. So I think they're both a little bit too high there. So I'm showing negative leverage, but I'd have Blaney and Harvick as the next 2 drivers there, and I am showing value on both depending on what book you look at. I think on DraftKings, Blaney's at plus 950, but you can get better odds over on Barstool. I forget what he is over on FanDuel, but I think the best odds were on Barstool or BetMGM. And then Harvick, I am dead even on at 900, but if you can find him for anything over that, I am showing value. So Blaney and Harvick are the 2 guys I bet on, and then after that we have Byron, Logano, Larson, but I'm not showing any value. So I guess I'm a Ford fan for the betting markets this week, but I really do think it's either going to be Bell or Truex. But we know nothing is certain because these guys can both dominate the entire race, and LA caution comes out and they finish 4th, and someone like Logano steals the win. We've seen it plenty of times before. Moskeg Joe, I think I said that right, says, no need for the Weather Channel. I'm issuing a flash flood warning for the Pocono Mountains next weekend. Yeah, we should probably look up the weather for Pocono. I was just thinking about that. I was like, well, I'm sure something's going to happen in Pocono. Let's see if we can get an early forecast on that. Pocono weather. Okay, cross your fingers, but I'm seeing sunny and 75 for Pocono next weekend, but we'll see. Go figure, though. It's not my favorite track in the world, so I wouldn't even mind if that one got rained out. really everywhere NASCAR goes, we have issues. I mean, Chicago, we had like a land hurricane. I forget what they called it, but it looked like a hurricane spinning on the track. Looking at the radar, we had the rain-shortened Atlanta race last week. But at the same time, if there was no threat of rain, that race probably isn't as good as it was. So maybe we should be thanking the rain because that was amazing. Like, good rate. I think they went single file for like 10 laps at the beginning, but after that, it was just an absolutely incredible race. So that was great. And then obviously this week we have I think they call it an atmospheric river. This in the northeast of the country with tornado warnings, which, you know, the northeast doesn't typically get tornadoes. So just go figure, right? Charles says, Truex, Bell, Chastain, Gibbs, McDowell, Custer. I think that's fine. Now, if it's cash games, I would prefer Jones over McDowell, but I think that's still a fine lineup. Steve says, if you were MME, what percentage would you stack the top two? I think 30-ish% is probably fine, 30 to 40%. I mean, they just project so well for me, and they check every single box. I mean, good track history, good in this package, good at short flat tracks. I mean, I really can't find any negatives on these two besides not having place differential. Maybe they're expensive. It's a really expensive combo, but I mean, everything points to these being the top two dogs. They were the top two dogs all week heading in, and then they backed it up in practice. They backed it up in qualifying. So I'm not really sure what's not to like, to be honest. The only way is, you know, issues on pit road, mechanical issues, someone gets wrecked, but that's outside factors that we can't really, you know, bank on. I mean, you can bank on variance, which is why you're not going 100% on these guys, but they do look really good. Cameron says, after listening a little, you like the Bell Truex combo better as opposed to what? Am I missing something? Oh, sorry, I missed your first message, Mitch. I did two groups, a Dom group, and then either a Bell or a Truex group. Yeah, I would not make a setting where I would exclude those guys being together. I mean, I think you're definitely going to want some builds with them together for sure. Now, you could set a group to like max it at a certain percentage where that can happen, which I think is fine because you're not going to want every lineup with those two together, because I'm not doing that either. But I think you definitely have to allow it to happen because we've seen 1-2 work out quite a bit. Now, it just sucks that they're both $11,000, but it's pretty easy to make work, to be honest, this week. Easier than you might think. The Travis Miller says, what's up, Chris? Bummed no race today? Yeah, it's unfortunate, I guess. I honestly don't mind. I kind of liked having the Sunday off, you know, being at the pool. We're going to play pickleball later, so it's nice having the day off. But I know a lot of you will have work tomorrow, so that does suck. So I do feel for you guys that won't be able to see it. But hopefully we'll have a good race tomorrow. And by good race, I mean a nice boring race, because that probably means that Truex or Bell took off and led almost the entire race. What's up, Mom? Says, hi, buddy. I got it fixed. Hi, NASCAR fan. Look to you all for tomorrow, and go Joey. Yeah, Joey, you know, this is a track for him that it could work out because he's great at short flats like his teammate Ryan Blaney. So it wouldn't surprise me if Joey had a decent race. He'll definitely fly under the radar a bit this weekend. I do prefer Blaney over Joey, but both are fine plays. Definitely have my preference on Ryan, though, but glad you can make it in and glad you got your phone fixed. Carmi says, Austin Cindric is a sneaky pick this week. I'm going to put him in my DK lineups, but I'm telling you this now, but just wait. Yes, Cindric, man, I agree. He's not a bad play this weekend. I thought he was going to pop more my optimal than he did. I think he ended up only showing up around... Yeah, he only ended up showing up around like 4% of the time for me, which I thought it was going to be more. But I guess just given the drivers he's around, I guess it makes some sense. Eric Jones, McDowell, Haley, all were bit faster in practice. But if you're going to roster Cindric anywhere, and this is the super speedway, I guess a road course, but he's not really been that great at those this year either. But I guess it's a short flat. Mike says, every year rains at half the races. Seems that way. Repeating the same thing, expecting a different outcome is crazy, right? I guess so. I mean, there's nothing we can do about the weather, unfortunately. Like, you know, if it just happens. So I wish we could control it, but it does seem like NASCAR has the absolute worst luck with weather. I mean, I remember, I think, was it last year we went to California, or was it this year? I forget. But we had like snow at Fontana. I mean, sure. Yeah, it wasn't Phoenix. It was, snow at Fontana. Then there was like a rainstorm one year at Las Vegas for practice out of nowhere. it's just crazy what can happen when we come to town. Hello, Miss Jules. Says, hi, handsome. Have a great Sunday, everyone. Thank you for stopping by. And hopefully your walk with Oakley was good. Nick Papa Giorgio says, outside of Bell and Truex, who else would you recommend as your dominators in 20 max? Yeah, so for the dominators today, that have realistic chances to really put down some laps, obviously Bell and Truex. But then I really like Kevin Harvick. I like Ryan Blaney quite a bit. I also like Denny Hamlin if he can get up there. I think those are your main threats to dominate. You could also throw in Joey Logano as well, kind of the same grouping as Blaney and then William Byron. So I would say if you're going to make a dom group, I would put Bell, Truex, Hamlin in it. And then I would put Byron, Harvick, Blaney, Logano. I think those are your most likely dominators today. You could throw in Elliott and Busch if you want, but with Busch in the rear, I just don't really see him getting up front to dominate, and Elliott just kind of looked like he sucked this week, so just personally fading him at that price point. But those are your most likely lap leaders, I would think. I know Hamlin's got some ground to make up starting all the way back in 20th, but we've seen him do it before here. He's obviously great at short flats and put down some decent laps in practice as well. Sarah says, McDowell, LaJoie, or Jones, Custer for the last two pieces in cash games. I'm probably going to go Jones Custer there. You're just locking in some more price differential. I realize McDowell had some speed in practice, but I wouldn't get too caught up in that speed we saw in practice. Obviously, first or second, just about everything. But he was in that first group. He definitely had an advantage. And if you're looking at the overall lap-by-lap data, I have him kind of sorted out around mid-pack-ish. Like, I had him right around 15th, 16th, which not bad for where he's starting. But I think some people were getting a little bit carried away with some of the McDowell speeds. So I think we should kind of temper expectations a little bit. I'm not saying you can't play him. He showed up in the optimal a little bit for me, but I think for cash games, you have a much safer route with Jones and Custer. Spread says, love the name, Vegas Vacation. Yeah, I love that name too. It's actually my profile picture in our fantasy league is Nick Papa Giorgio. I loved watching that movie when it came, not when it came out, obviously, but I was too young. Or was I even alive? I don't know when it came out. I probably wasn't even alive when it came out. But the first time I watched it was really good. Jason says, Sunny in 75, cue up that Joe Nicholas song. I'll be honest, I don't know who Joe Nicholas is. I don't know if I should, but I'm sorry. Steve says, hey, Pocono is my old hometown track. Actually, the only track I've ever been to. Is it fun to go there? I know it's huge, so it's probably hard to see a lot of it. But if I was going to go to a race, I'd probably prefer to go to a short track just so I can see everything all at once. Like Bristol would be the one I'd want to go to the most, the Bristol night race. I also think Martinsville would be fun, but I do think the racing at Bristol would be incredible to see. Also, Homestead would be my closest track. The problem is, though, going to a Homestead race, especially if it's during the day, I don't know what time it is this year, but if it's during the day, I'm just going to roast in the stands because it's going to be hot. So I would like to go to Bristol one day, though, or Daytona night race, because obviously Daytona is awesome. But it would have to be, if I was going to go to a race, it'd have to be when football season starts, when I don't do the live streams anymore, because I just can't do a live stream at the track. It'd be impossible. Tito says, Eric Jones and either pick Custer or Gillen. Yeah, it's pretty much what it is this week. I think Custer's probably your safest bet. I think my projections do like Custer a little bit more. And I'm not saying like I love Custer this week. I'm giving him a 28th place finish, 28.5, and that's equating to 21.7 points. So it's not like, yeah, let's play Cole Custer. It's really awesome. It's only 4.3x, but it's like you just kind of have to play these guys down low. Like, no, they're not hitting 5x, but they don't necessarily have to for things to work out. Andrew says, hey, Chris, I'm a Patreon member. Awesome. Where do I find the ownership numbers on the spreadsheet? Good question, because I did change the spreadsheet this year. So if you go to the Sim Scores tab, it's like the 1, 2, 3, it's like the fifth or sixth tab there at the bottom. If you hit that on the sheet there, it's going to say P-Own on the M column, and those are the ownership projections there. And I will be putting up an update. It's not going to be anything drastic, but I think a couple tweaks are needed there. I will say I saw Stochastic have Ryan Newman as the highest projected owned driver at 52%. What? I don't know if that's still going to be there. But yeah, I hope Ryan Newman's 52% owned. That'd be amazing. But my assumption is they put in too much factor in Vegas odds, because if you look at FanDuel, Ryan Newman, for whatever reason, I know Rotodoc, me and him were talking about it on Twitter a little bit. They just don't want any action, is what he told me, which I get, because I guess people were hammering him early in the week. But he's at 40-1. Ryan Newman in a Rick Ware car is 40-1, which is the exact same as Daniel Suarez. It's better than Alex Bowman in a Hendrick car, and it's just a little bit better, I think, than Ty Gibbs, if I remember correctly, or maybe you're like right there with Ty Gibbs. Like, I have never seen anything like that ever. So I'm hoping people get on the Ryan Newman train. I don't see a reason for it. He's going to be super slow, and in a Rick Ware car, be my guest. But yeah, if you go to the Sim Scores tab, the ownership projections are right there. Tita says Truex on Mondays is free money. He's pretty good on Mondays, not going to lie. I forget the actual statistic on that, but he definitely has a handful of wins. And he won Dover earlier in the year, right? Right? He was the winner of Dover? Pretty sure. I know it was one of the concrete tracks. Yeah, he won at Dover on a Monday, so maybe the trends will continue. Wouldn't be surprised, though. Ross says Bell, Busher, Custer, Priest, Reddick, MTJ. So you got Truex and Bell as your dominators. Reddick can also be a dominator, so you got a 3-dom build there. You got Busher, Priest. That's not bad for tournaments. I think Priest is not a bad play this week. I think he'll definitely fly under the radar a bit. Now, most projection systems will not like him that much, and mine doesn't love him either. I'm only showing him optimal right around 7% of the time, but that's just because Chase Briscoe is getting so much love there. And yeah, so a lot of people will go with Briscoe and Chris Buescher there, and obviously you have Ty Gibbs as well. So I don't think Priest is a bad just dart thrower to get off some chalk. I mean, that's one of those ways where you can play the chalk doms like Bell and Truex and still be a little bit different by throwing in a guy like Ryan Priest instead of a Briscoe or a Chris Buescher. Well, I mean, you already have Buescher, but you know what I mean. Thoughts on Brad K today? I do like Brad. Now, the problem is he's by some place differential plays. So he's right by Ross Chastain, starting in 31st. And then for like $1,000 cheaper, you can get Ty Gibbs, Alex Bowman, which not the big fan of Bowman this week, just kind of sucked overall. But I don't think Bad Brad's a bad idea. He could definitely just stay within the top 10 all day, pick off some fast laps here and there. Probably a better FanDuel play in my opinion, but would definitely be low on DraftKings if you're looking for a pivot off of Ross. I just don't think he's going to be able to dominate or anything. Spread says, hey Jules, great Warzone dub last night. Yes, we were, hopefully I don't know if you're going to be able to play tonight because you got work, but maybe we can get some games in later. Run some quads in Vondel. Tito says, Chris saying you watched a movie, I don't believe it. I've watched some classic movies, Tito. Like, I've seen all the vacation movies, like Christmas Vacation, Vegas, and I forget the other one they went to. And I've seen a decent amount of movies, okay? Not that bad. 97, that movie came out? Yeah, I wasn't alive yet. Yeah, I was not born before 90s. I wasn't born in 97. Carmi says, Pocono sucks to watch. A race live, been twice. Yeah, sure. It sucks to watch on TV, so I can't imagine it's much better live. And last year, I think that was the one where, was it when both Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin got caught? Got disqualified and Chase Elliott got gifted the win? Pretty sure. And that's rough on FanDuel, because over on FanDuel, if those guys get disqualified, you get screwed over there because they take away all their points. On DraftKings, they already pay out by that, and they don't change it either way. But on FanDuel, they'll hit you with something. C-Mitch says, love going to Daytona, but it rains every single time I have gone. Mother Nature hates NASCAR. Yeah, if you're going to a Daytona race, especially in the summer, I mean, it's almost impossible for there not to be a rain delay. It's just how Florida is. I mean, especially this time of the year, it just storms every single day. Like, I've been looking at outside, and it looks like it's about to storm all day today, and it hasn't yet, but the threat is always there. At any point, it can always happen. Spread says Blaney wins on Mondays as well. I'm trying to remember the last... Charlotte wasn't on Monday, was it? No, I'm trying to. I'm assuming spread just made that. I'm trying to think if there was a race that Blaney ever won on a Monday, but I don't think so. You know, he's the biggest Blaney fan in the world, though. Steve says, now that I live in Central Florida, I got to get myself to Daytona, only about an hour and a half away from me. You're lucky, Steve. If it was closer to me, I would definitely go. I'd have to fly to get to Daytona because I'm not driving 5-6 hours, whatever it is, all the way from down here. So enjoy for me. I'd love to go one day. It would definitely be awesome. I'd only probably go to the night race, though. Obviously, Daytona 500 would be sweet to go to, but I think I'd prefer to be a night race, which... And Daytona's just awesome. I mean, you're going to get a great race almost every single time. No, I remember the one Daytona race after there was like a big one, lap 15. They just rode like single file for like 3 stages almost, and it was terrible. I think that one actually fell asleep in stage 2, but it usually produces some fun action for sure. Adam says, curious to see who you think wins these head-to-heads this week. Finished positions, Suarez versus Almirola, Reddick versus Bubba, Byron versus Busch, and Truex versus Hamlin. So, Sean, who I always talk, we basically do the same bets every week in Discord. We always talk it out. He hit Byron over Busch at plus 105, I think, plus 110, plus 105 earlier in the week, and I was going to do it, but I didn't. And I wish I did now because I think Byron's now at minus 140. But I'll just pull up the projections and see how I have that going. So for the first matchup, Almirola versus Suarez, I currently have Almirola. I should probably sort it by projected finish. So I have Almirola at a 12.1. I got Suarez at a 15.9, which seems a little disrespectful to Suarez, but just how it came out. I don't put a bias in there. So I guess I have Almirola winning that one. I have Reddick a few spots better than Bubba. I have Byron over Busch by a handful of spots. And then Truex versus Hamlin. That's just impossible. Technically I have Truex as the winner for this race at 3.36. Bell's at 3.57, but that's just a coin flip. But on paper, I have it as Truex. I guess you can just kind of trust Truex probably a little bit more than Bell, I would say, and his pit crew is usually very solid. Seaman says, just starting a storm here now. It's how it is in Florida. I mean, there's just storms that pop up at any given moment. You never know when it's going to be. Was the Coke 600 on Monday? I thought it was on Sunday. Oh, you know what? Okay, yeah, I remember it being in Charlotte now where it just rained all weekend, I should say. Yeah, I remember that now. Because then Tito and Eric and Potato are going to go or something like that. Yeah, my bad. I forgot that was on a Monday. Tito says, spread makes up stuff about Blaney. You know how he is? Yeah, you know how he is, Tito. Apparently he didn't make it up, though. So that's my bad. The Gooder says, anything good on Prize Picks? I wasn't really loving much on Prize Picks this week, which usually at a track where you can rack up dominator points, usually you can just kind of hammer the over on the most obvious dominator because it's always way too low. But this week, they made it solid this week because they have Bell at 65.5 and they got Truex at 66.5. Personally, what I would like to do is pick one and take the over. I mean, you could take both, but I think taking one in your cards and then just kind of building from there is probably a good route to go. So I like over on either of those guys. I like the over on Blaney at 38.5. I think that's just a little bit too low. Really just not factoring any dominator points for Blaney, which I think is a mistake. And after that, there really wasn't much I liked. I thought Bubba was a little low at... Has he always been at 20.5? I feel like he was at 24.5 at one point. I might be wrong there. Let me check what I have and see if that moved at all. Might just be remembering wrong. Yeah, so Bubba was at 24.5. He's now bumped up to 28. I personally would not take the over at 28, but if you got into 24, congratulations. That was just way too low. And I thought Reddick over, I'm just looking at I read it in my article. So Reddick was also at 30.5. He's now at 32.5, which I still have it a little bit too low, so I would still take the over on that. But my favorites were the two big dogs over, Blaney over, Bubba and Reddick over. and everything else wasn't a huge fan of. I mean, you're really eating a lot of laps led on Bell and Truex there, and I didn't love that. I mean, I think one of them will probably hit it, but still wasn't the biggest fan. Logan says Blenny's won 2 Talladega races on a Monday. Man, I guess I don't remember these ever being on Mondays, but well, now that you mention it, yeah, Coke 600 was on a Monday. I forgot all the rain that we had in Charlotte. And then I remember that Talladega race that got rained out. It was the second, I think it was the fall race, right? Got rained out. And then he won, was that like in 2022, 2021? I forget. But I remember that one now. But I am forgetting the second Talladega race that he won. Joe says, best racing at Daytona, trucks and ARCA, never a dull moment. So I've just been getting into the lower level series stuff. So I've pretty much watched, probably since the 600, I've been watching like Xfinity and trucks every week, and it's kind of fun. So maybe in the future I'm not ever going to do like videos for that stuff, but I might do projections and stuff on Patreon for it. I'm considering it, because if I'm going to be playing it and stuff, I've been just doing prize picks, but I may end up doing projections on it eventually, but still dipping my toes in the water on that. But yeah, trucks, I'll never watch ARCA probably, but trucks and Xfinity, I mean, most of these guys can't even drive, and it's just hilarious. It's always a clown show, especially with trucks. I mean, those guys suck. Besides a couple, obviously. Like Zane Smith's good, Hocevar, but even Hocevar makes a lot of mistakes. Adam says, any interest in a bet on Ford or Chevy this week, or is Toyota just a lock? Chevy at the plus 230 looks enticing. You know, now that you mentioned that, another bet that I wish I made, Barstool had Toyota to win at plus 160 before practice and qualifying. Wanted to take it. I did not. Obviously, I think you can get that at even money. Personally, for me, I would probably say Ford if I had a bet on a manufacturer to win, just so you're not eating the Toyota chalk. But if Toyota's still even money, the Sims don't love it, but I don't think it's the worst bet in the world just to get both Truex and Christopher Bell locked up. And you can also get Denny in there. Express says smash the like button for Shizzle. But yeah, I don't think I'd bet Chevy at plus 230 personally. Like obviously they have good drivers, but all my top guys, either Toyota or Ford. My highest projected finishing Chevy is Larson, which obviously Larson can win any single week, and no matter what the track is. But I don't know. I just don't think the Chevys are amazing this weekend. Hendrick kind of struggled overall. I mean, Larson put down some bad laps, but Byron was kind of struggling, although he had a bit of a steering issue. So that could be part of it. Obviously put down a good quality lap, but Bowman sucked, Elliott sucked, and if you're looking at the other one, I mean, Trackhouse, I don't think Suarez will win. Chastain starting in the very back almost. So I'm not huge on the Chevy train. Theo says make some projections. I'm considering it. I mean, they won't be as advanced as the Cup projections probably, but I'm sure I can throw something together in a model and make it work somehow. I mean, it'll probably be bare bones, but then people, when they ask me if I do Xfinity, I guess I can finally say yeah. But I'm not going to ever do videos or live streams for that because there's just not enough people that care about it. Conscious says, live free or die. Okay. It's a blunt, but I like it. FE says, CP coming around, starting to watch the other series. I am. I mean, everyone else talks about it and stuff, and then I never have any idea what to say when people ask me about it. So I've been tuning in a bit. I've been looking at, practice times, charting some lap data, and looking at, who's been fast. So I've been keeping up with it. And it's been all right. Racing isn't terrible sometimes, although you can get I watched the, I believe it was trucks that raced at Mid-Ohio. Gosh, I saw like 30 spins in the first 10 laps. Adam said, interesting. What 4 drivers do you have projected the highest? So I actually have bets on Blaney and Harvick to win. Now, do I think they win? No, but I like the odds that I got. So those are my top 2, Blaney and Harvick. Then I think I have, let me check my projected finish order. So this is what I have for the order. I have Truex, Bell, Blaney, Harvick, Byron, Larson, then Logano, Hamlin. So in order, I guess I'd have it as Yoda, Ford, Chevy personally. I really like what I saw in just what I've seen at short flat tracks from Blaney and Harvick. So I think they'll definitely be contenders outside of the 2 main Toyotas. Contra says, rank McDowell, Stenhouse, Custer, and Cindric. Oh, such an ugly group of drivers there. I would say I have it as, I guess I just pull my projections. Looks like I have it as Stenhouse, McDowell, Custer, Cindric. Not pretty. Although that could change a little bit. I am going to do a slight tweak to projections this evening. Slight tweak. So it's not like it's going to be a game changer or anything. Levi says, so are we racing today? No, we're not racing, Levi. We are unfortunate now. Bob called it at like 10:50 this morning. I just wanted to do a live stream for people to watch on playback. I figured there wouldn't be too many people here, but everyone that is here, I really do appreciate it. Still not talking to myself because that'd be awkward. Concha says, live free or die as New Hampshire slow. Oh, I'm not too up to date on the New Hampshire culture, unfortunately. So do appreciate the knowledge though. Geb says, Xfinity crew chief breakdown video, please. Yeah, we'll get right on that. We'll go over the crew chiefs and then we'll talk about the jackmen and then the tire changers, and we'll break that down and go over the loop data for those guys. See how fast they're getting each lug per tire or wheel. Scott says, Bell, Truex, Gibbs, Chastain, McDowell, and Gilliland for DraftKings tournaments. I mean, I'll tell you right now, it's going to be very chalky. So don't expect to be too different there with that lineup, but I do like it. It's just the only concern, and I mean the only concern there is ownership, but it does project very well for me. And it's just going to be so hard to get off of Bell, Truex, Chastain, Gibbs. I mean, as long as, obviously it's NASCAR, a lot of things can happen, but if Chastain and Gibbs don't wreck, I mean, I have Gibbs projected for a 19th place finish, and that's 43 points. Like, he does not need to do much at all, and he could very easily do way better than 19. Like, that's just conservative. And he's still, I mean, nearly at 6x projection and the top value on the slate. Chastain, I have him projected for barely inside of top 15, and we're talking right around 50 points. So, just, I mean, they can just walk into the optimal. They don't need to do much, especially if you're playing a single entry. Like if you're playing single entries, they do not need to do really anything at all. If you're playing 150 max tournaments, yeah, I mean, you still have to have the nuts. But, I mean, Chastain can get 40 points, Gibbs can get 35, and it's like, sure, that's not breaking the slate, but that's good enough to, I mean, you could still win a tournament in like a single entry. You don't have to get too crazy in those because they're going to be so high owned it really wouldn't matter. Now, look at it from a different perspective. If anything happens to those guys and you fade them, yeah, you have a really nice, easy walk there because everyone's going to own them, but yeah, no problem. See, Mitch, thank you for being here. I mean, I can't do a show without the people here, so thank you for being here. It's your NASCAR DFS. Do my best. Do my best for you guys. Tita says, Chris saying slight tweak means gotta completely rebuild. No, there's really nothing that'll change. I think it's just some of the bad guys I just think there's going to be a couple tweaks. In the ownership projections, I think I have some of these guys starting closer to the front with a little bit too much love because I'm just thinking the way people are going to build. And I just think there's going to be a little bit more love for like a Eric Jones, Chris Buescher than what I have them for, which I already have them pretty popular now, but I think they'll be maybe a little bit higher than what I thought originally. Because I have Blaney and Byron decently owned, but I'm just trying to think of how people are going to use roster construction, and they're probably not going to be as high owned as I may initially had them on there. So we'll do some tweaks. Gives us sarcastic Chris forgot the cap. I don't know if anyone knows what you're referencing about the Xfinity crew chief breakdown, but I do. C. Mitch says, now it sounds like a minimal viewed video. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're going to break down the crew chiefs, all that stuff. No, crew chiefs don't even matter. Like, when people, I always get these questions every week when, like, a crew chief gets suspended, like, does that affect the driver or anything? Like, no, they're getting the same exact info as they normally would. It does not matter at all. Gives a semi-petition to change Gibbs to Gibbs. Well, he messes up a lot, Gibbs. I don't know if you want your name on him yet, but he definitely has the potential. And also, Geb, we got to watch you race again on iRacing soon. We always watch a Geb do iRacing in the live chat in Discord. Usually get a decent crowd for it. It's fun to watch. Geb's pretty good at it, so he's only getting better. So I do enjoy when you do that. It's always a fun time. Also, we can watch him on the YouTube streams in the, what is it, IDK League or something like that. How do I feel about Brad Keselowski? Keselowski is a fine tournament play. You know, he's starting 9th, so it makes it a little bit tough to get to, especially when you have Ross Chastain priced right above him. But if he stays within the top 8 and picks up some fast laps, that's not a bad tournament play at all. Theta says, what time is your pickleball? Hopefully we can run some Warzone before Chris goes to bed. Well, I would like to go to pickleball like as soon as I get off this stream. So as long as it doesn't rain, which I'll probably be there for over an hour, we'll come back, eat dinner, and then we can probably play Warzone, hopefully. Let me check and see if there's rain on the forecast here. Doesn't look like it. 101 degrees feels like still at 6 p.m. Maybe we'll have to wait a little bit longer to go. I'm gonna die. But yeah, we can play when we get back. Cutter says, have you been playing Warzone with the superpowers? I have. I played one game so far because I just haven't been able to play this week until last night. And not too bad. I thought it was going to be more dumber than it is, but I actually kind of liked it. Laser eyes thing is a little bit weird, but I thought it was pretty cool. But yeah, still love my Warzone. I've been rocking it since it came out in 2020. Gib says, I feel the love. New Hampshire made me famous. Yeah. Gib had some great runs for sure. I had to give you a shout out for the entertainment you provided us, Gib. Appreciate it. Gibbs can't do worse than a starting position this week. I vote for yes for this week. And it's certainly possible. I mean, Gibbs is very easy walk to optimal today. Just don't wreck. That's it. Just don't wreck and you're fine. Finishes 22nd. I mean, is it amazing? No, but it's still a good chunk of points. And he's not that expensive either. Favorite sub 7K places, Adam? Let me check. It's not great down there. First one that pops up for me is Chase Briscoe. I got him for just like around 28 to 30 points. So, yeah, don't mind Mr. Briscoe. I mean, he's just really good at the short flats. Now, I know practice wasn't amazing for him. And the thing is, though, I believe he was in that first group, which makes it a little bit even worse looking. But if you look at what he's done in the next-gen car at short flats, it's really good. I mean, 12.1 average finish, 12.6 running position, has a win, 2 top 5s, 6 top 15s in 8 races. Like, he usually puts down some pretty good races in this package. So I'm going to have to play him some. As soon as my cookies are done baking. All right, awesome. Then we'll play some pickleball. Hopefully it's not too hot there, but 101 feels like doesn't sound too good. Chris says, not much talk about Bubba, but I think he practiced pretty good. And yes, Geb is fun to watch in iRacing. He sure is. Always got to watch him in the live chat when he's streaming. But yeah, I mean, we haven't really gotten much questions about Bubba. I realize not as many people are here to ask questions, so might be some curious minds out there. But he was good in practice. The thing is, though, he's not like the best at short flats, but he's just been steadily improving just about everywhere almost. And if he's going to have similar speed to his teammate Reddick, now I'm not saying he's as good of a driver as Reddick. Probably not even close, but I mean, if he can just hang in the top 10 in a good car, it's not bad. Just the problem is, he's by place differential plays. What's up, Andre? Tito says, me spotting for Geb, we get 3 wins. Chris comes in to watch 2 DNFs in a row. Yeah. As soon as I heard how good Geb was doing, I showed up the one night, and then I come in, and I think we saw like 2 green flag laps. He got black flagged and got wrecked a couple times. Not his fault, but just some bad luck. Tito says, sounds like a no for me. Also spread, you know how he is. I'll definitely be on later. Definitely. Spread says, get braces with the crowd in Discord. So I made it to 6 o'clock. So if there's no more questions, I'll probably get out of here. I didn't think we'd make it this far. I didn't think, obviously it's a smaller crowd today, but I really do appreciate everyone that did show up. Obviously we have a race today, so you could be doing anything in your Sunday evening and you hung out with me, so that's awesome. I assume a lot of these people will be watching it on playback. So if you do have any other questions, you can leave them down in the comment section. And if you're brand new here, did post a preview video, which you can check out yesterday, which pretty much goes over the entire slate. And we also got over 11K subscribers, which is awesome. So thank you for that. And it looks like I got one more question here. Big Otter says, can you give me a driver under $7,100? Briscoe would be my favorite under $7,100 projection wise. Him or Eric Jones, but I do think Chase Briscoe is not a bad option. And I see Mr. Oakley is here. I'll have to show Eric here. I don't think he's here, but Oakley. Had to give him a little appearance here. Okay, but I think I'll probably get out of here. So I do appreciate everyone stopping by. I'll see you guys that are in Discord there. And tell Oakley goodbye. And I'll see you all next week. We got Pocono. I think it's an afternoon race, so probably be a live stream around 12 p.m. Eastern. But wish you all the best of luck. And like I said, if you have any questions,